If you have a true scary story you'd like to send my way, or maybe a glitch in the Matrix you've experienced, go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to send it my way. And, of course, thank you. Hello, Raven. I've never experienced a glitch in the Matrix up until the point of this story. And I want to say that it's something I never want to experience again. Something about reality breaking right in front of you makes you feel... I don't know how to explain it, but I guess sick is the best way to put it. Maybe I'm just being dramatic, but something about it made me feel panicky and ill, and my event wasn't even that big of a deal, to be honest. I've been listening to your podcast for a long time now, and I always thought it would be kind of neat to go through one of these, and yeah, now I regret ever thinking that. Anyways, I guess a bit of backstory is necessary to set a bit of foundation for who I am and the whole situation. My boyfriend and I both work full-time jobs. We work a pretty similar schedule. We don't live together yet, so the times that we get to see each other are after work and on the weekends, assuming that he has them off. We've decided that, in order to have a date night every week, we would meet up at a local restaurant after work every Thursday night. That way we could have our nights together and do anything else that we wanted to do after we ate dinner. A few weeks ago, it was a normal Thursday and we were meeting up to have dinner, and I was pretty psyched because I wanted to tell him something about work. I had pulled in, and he had texted me saying that he was going to be a bit later than normal because his boss wanted to do his annual review right then. So, it was going to be about 20 or 30 minutes. I told him that I would go in and wait for him, and he said he would try to be as quick as he could. I was there, sitting at the table by the door and waiting for him to get there, when I look up and see his car pull into the parking lot. I could pick his car out of a lineup, mostly because it is the prettiest shade of blue/green, and he has a vanity plate that is literally his name. It's an uncommon male name that starts with an L. I know for a fact that I saw his car pull into the lot as I saw the color and the plate. I even saw him park and start to get out of the car. I then glanced back down at my phone, finished my text to whoever I was texting, and then I stood up to head towards the door to meet him there and give him a hug. I got to the door and looked out, and his car was gone. The spot where I saw him park was now occupied by a red Camry, and he was nowhere to be seen. I was confused, but I thought that maybe he had somehow run back to his car and parked in another spot or something. I don't know why he would do that, but stranger things have happened. I stepped out of the building and looked around, but he was not in the parking lot. I pulled my phone up and hit the button to call him to see why he had left. He answered, completely apologetic, and informed me that he had just gotten out of the review with his boss and that he was heading there right then. I reiterated what he said, kind of asking if he was just now leaving, and he hadn't been in the parking lot yet. He sort of laughed and said, "No, I'm about 15 minutes out, just now getting to the parking lot at the office." This was confirmed, because I actually heard his boss in the background saying, "Sorry I kept him later than intended. I hope you two have a good night, Rachel." We're pretty good friends with his boss, so this wasn't weird, but it did confirm that he was, in fact, still there at the office. I just kind of said okay and wrapped up the call. After we hung up, I was struck with the weirdest feeling. That sick feeling that I mentioned earlier. I was trying to figure out if I was losing it, if I was hallucinating, if I was just somehow seeing things that weren't there. But I knew inside that I saw my boyfriend pull into the parking lot, park, and then get out of his car. I have no idea why or how it all reset to the point that he hadn't even left yet, but it did. It is still, to this day, the weirdest thing that I have ever experienced. And I don't really know how to get past it beyond just writing the story out for you and trying my best to accept that things aren't always stable in this life of ours. Hopefully, I never experience another one of these, but if I ever do, I will absolutely let you know. Thank you for reading, and I hope that your listeners enjoy my strange experience. This happened 24 years ago, in the year 1999. I completely forgot about this incident until I read a Reddit post very similar to my own experience, and it jogged my memory. This will be a long story, but I would really appreciate your comments as to what actually happened that day. To those of you who read to the end, I thank you in advance. I was home from college for the summer visiting my family. One day, I asked my mom to borrow her car so I could go visit my friends who stayed at the dorm during summer vacation. She said that I could have it, but I needed to be home before 10 a.m. the next morning because she needed the car the next day. My college was about an hour's drive from my house on a good day. Some friends of mine would make it in 45 minutes. The fastest driving time I had heard of was 35 minutes. Late at night, no traffic and driving like the wind. I got to my friend's house, our dorm residence, in the early evening, and we decided to drive down to a nearby casino, about 30 minutes drive to pass the night. We were a group of about 5, 2 of my roommates, 2 other friends from our dorm, and myself. We had a great time playing on the quarter slot machines. Once we all were tired and were ready to leave, we head to the lobby doors and realize it's early morning, around 5 a.m., and it's pouring rain. It was raining so hard that we could barely see the first row of parked cars just in front of the lobby. We waited for about 30 minutes or so for the rain to slow to a drizzle so that we could drive home and made the 30-minute drive without incident. When we got to the dorm, it was around 6 in the morning, and the rain was pouring down again. So I resolved to wait it out as long as I could. I still had to return the car to my mom and had at least an hour's drive, if not longer, due to the weather. When I left the dorm, it was 7 a.m. One of my roommates stayed up with me until I left, and we both noted the time as I was leaving. I got to my car a few minutes later and started driving towards the highway. I was really tired since we basically pulled an all-nighter at the casino, but I had to drive home to return the car to my mom. I do not recommend driving tired. I told myself I'll be fine. I cranked up the radio to my favorite station, lit a cigarette, opened the window for some fresh air, and so off I went. But again, please do not drive while tired. Within 10 minutes or so, as I'm driving on the highway, the rain starts pouring again. It was so bad that I could barely see the wipers of my car. They were at the fastest setting, and it's like they weren't doing anything. But the rain was kind of hypnotizing. The rhythm sort of started lulling me to sleep, but I didn't really notice. My blinks kept getting slower and slower. What happened next was in a span of about 3 to 5 seconds. Not more. It's kind of hard to explain. I was awake one moment, sort of, and the next my consciousness wakes up to darkness. Kind of like when you wake up in the middle of the morning but you haven't opened your eyes yet, and you are slowly starting to be aware of your surroundings. How comfortable and warm you are in bed, etc. And that's basically what happened. I was aware of being awake, but it was dark. I don't even notice my eyes are closed. I'm comfortable, but I seem to be in a sitting position. My hands are holding on to something, but I'm not sure what it is exactly. I'm just really comfortable, and I don't want it to change. I kept thinking, just 5 more minutes. I don't know for how long my eyes were actually closed, but suddenly I hear a really, really loud crash. It almost sounded like a clap, but unlike anything I have ever heard before. It sounded like metal on metal, but I wasn't sure. It got me to open my eyes, and the first thing I notice is that I'm in my car, and all I see from the windows is a wave of water heading towards my windshield really fast. When it hit the windshield of the car, it sounded like the glass should have broken from the impact. It was the loudest slap sound I have ever heard before or since. I'm in momentary shock as I take in my surroundings. I'm still in my car, driving perfectly straight in the leftmost lane. On my left is a concrete barrier just a couple of feet away. On my right, I was just overtaken by a huge 18-wheeler truck. That is what made the waves slap on my windshield. Heart pounding, I rubbed my eyes and forced them open as far as they would go, determined to stay awake. I turned the music louder and opened the window to let the rain hit me in the face, along with some much-needed fresh air. The entire time I was thinking, holy hell, I could have died. I probably should have died. Then, another thought hit me. What even was that first loud crash that I heard? The time elapsed between the first and second claps was about a full second. Me hearing the loud clap, opening my eyes to a wave that crashes to the window with another, but different sounding loud clap. But this wasn't the craziest part yet. Since the rain was very strong, I wasn't driving more than 50 to 60 kilometers an hour, as opposed to the usual 100 kilometers an hour. This means that the trip should have taken twice as long as it normally would. I figured I should be home by 9 a.m. at the latest. The rest of the drive was uneventful, and I made it to my building, drove into the very large garage, and all the way in the back to my parents' parking spot. Then, I walked back around to the elevators by the entrance, and took the elevator to the 19th floor. Walked down a long hallway to my apartment, went into my room, and crashed on the bed. Right before I passed out from fatigue and probably shock, I remembered to send my roommate a text message to let her know that I made it home safely. I was so tired that I didn't even check what time it was, I just crashed. I woke up to a bunch of messages from my roommate. I don't remember them verbatim, but they were something like, "What? No way, you must be joking. Where are you? Hello? How did you get home so fast? There's no way you're already home. Are you okay?" It takes me a while to figure out what she's talking about, while remembering my harrowing journey from the morning, because it was then that I noticed the time of the text that I had sent her before I went to sleep. It was showing 7:20 a.m. There is no way that it is possible to travel around 90 kilometers in a span of 20 minutes in a rainstorm, where you can't even see the lanes on the road or even the hood of your car. Also, while desperately trying not to fall asleep and apparently failing at that. I don't know what to make of this. After reading a whole bunch of other stories in this subreddit, I'm pretty sure it may have either been a case of quantum immortality or a glitch in the Matrix. However, ever since that day, I have been experiencing all kinds of paranormal phenomena through the years. I'm pretty sure that this was the catalyst events to them all. Well, all except for one, but I'll tell you about it in another post if requested. Anyways, I'm sorry for the length of this story. I just wanted to write down as many details as I could remember to share with you all. This memory is now so clear, it's as if it happened yesterday, and I will never forget it. Hello, Reddit. I've been quietly biding my time and waiting for my glitch. Everything I'm about to describe came to light about 30 minutes ago, when I, 49, female, drove to my parents, 75 female and 78 male, home to check on my dad. He was in the ER with chest pains earlier today and had been discharged. On to the glitch. My parents do not use Reddit, and do not know about glitches and matrices. After the dust settled on "Is Dad okay?", my mom presented me with an envelope that was in their mailbox this week, with my writing on it. There's no debate. This is my writing, and exactly how I would address a card to my parents. Front and back, including Shirley Temple stamps for my mom. Glitch 1. Postmark is from July 2016, Los Angeles. That tracks with where I lived in July of 2016, but how did it take 6.5 years to get to my parents' mailbox? Reasonable answer. The card was possibly stuck in a postal bin or inside my parents' mailbox for 6.5 years. Okay, then riddle me this part. Glitch 2. Yes, it's my handwriting on the envelope, but the card inside is a card that I have never seen, and based on the pop culture references on the card, is not a card that I would send. The message inside the card is in my aunt's handwriting with her signature. Yes, the card that's been in transit for 6.5 years is from my mom's sister, yet addressed and sent by me. Possible explanation: my uncle, aunt's husband, my mom's brother-in-law, and my favorite uncle could have handed it off to me for mailing when he passed through LA. This explanation isn't totally wild because he travels a lot, and we always find a dinner together, whatever locale he's passing through. However, I have zero recollection of us getting together during my 7 years in LA, nor any sort of card handoff, nor any prior card handoff that seems like this. Plus, why would my aunt in Georgia give her husband a card to give to me in California to mail to my mother in Virginia? So, Reddit, how did my mom receive a 6.5-year-old card mailed in my writing, but from her sister, on a day when my dad was in the hospital for a near-death experience? Also, I just noticed that the happy birthday mom makes no sense. My mom's birthday is in November. Postmarks are July of 2016. So, this birthday wish is 8 months late? Today, me and my friends went to Carl's Jr. after school for some food. My friends and I are 16 to 17, by the way. This isn't a childhood story, technically, and I needed to use the restroom. So, after we all ordered, I went to the bathroom and did my business, and when I first walked into the small bathroom with the 2 stalls, a lady who was washing her hands complimented my shoes. I said thanks, and she left the bathroom after that. When I exited the bathrooms and walked over to where my friends sat, I mentioned the lady and the compliment that she gave me. I was wearing some wacky shoes, so it was notable. They all proceeded to say that no one left the bathrooms, which makes sense as there was no one else in the restaurant at the time, and this lady had a pink shirt on and was not an employee. One of my friends gets up and goes to the bathroom to check for the woman, to no avail. But they did say that they experienced some oddities, like the music and the smell being off. I then get up to investigate for myself and walk into the bathroom again and look around. I couldn't have spent more than a minute in there, and I didn't notice anything amiss. I walk over to my friends and they ask what took so long. Apparently, I was gone for 10 minutes. I get confused and say that I only spent a minute in the bathroom looking for that woman, and all my friends proceed to get more confused and tell me that I didn't tell them about a woman of any sort. At first I thought they were joking. I told them to quit it and give it to me straight. They then gave evidence of me spending 10 minutes in the bathroom, and they kept to their story. Even many hours later now, they haven't caved, which is a very impressive bit, or they are being truthful. I believe the latter, because my friends know very well that I got distressed over this, and one of my friends started doing their own research into what was happening too. None of my friends are good at lying. They have huge tells and crack after very little effort. Needless to say, the entire situation was odd, and I'm not entirely sure what exactly happened. The lady disappeared, my friends acted entirely different, and I lost time. This happened around 6 years ago. My partner lived out in the countryside, not much around but farmland, bridleways, and walking trails. The nearest shop was a petrol station, which was about a 6-mile or 15-minute drive. There were only 2 routes from his place to the shop, and we always took the same route. We would do this drive an average of 4 times a week. Even when not going to the shop, but driving out to the town, etc., this route was very familiar. It was pretty much one straight road cut through woodlands and forest. Your typical winding country lanes where for half the journey through the woodland, you would be on alert for deer randomly jumping out in front of you just to scuttle off into the woodlands on the other side. So, on this night, we're doing our usual drive to get snacks and chatting about everything and nothing. Halfway through the journey, the woodland opened up to a sort of crossroads that I had never seen before. As we approached it, my boyfriend slowed right down as a car was approaching toward us from the left and going down the road that we were just leaving. It passed us as we sat there, and then my boyfriend proceeded to the right slightly, where there was a mini level crossing. In the moments from approaching this clearing to crawling towards the level crossing, I'm looking around everywhere trying to work out where we are and looking to my boyfriend to see his reaction. At some point, I quietly said, "What's going on? What is this?" He didn't answer me, but it's possible that he just didn't hear me or didn't say anything as I wasn't asking a direct question and was just thinking out loud. As we approached, my boyfriend stopped talking and focused, and I mean he really focused, and drove carefully and slowly. The opening of the level crossing had about 3.5 foot of heavy wooden slats, and then 2 rail lines, and then another set of wooden slats as you left the rail tracks. He had a very low sports car, and you felt every hard bump as we entered and left. The car purred over the slats and then thudded hard over the rails. He was visibly and verbally conscious and careful of every bump. As we exited, we came onto a ridiculously tight lane which was so narrow that the foliage was touching either side of the car. After perhaps 30 seconds, the lane naturally widened out, and my boyfriend continued talking. I still had no idea where we were, so I interrupted him with what I considered to be a rhetorical question. I said, "Hang on, we've never come this way before, have we?" Confused, he said, "Yeah, this is the only way we come." So, we're going back and forth, and he's asking how I don't recognize where we are, and our tone between each other is getting heated as we both become frustrated with the other. I eventually say how I've never seen that level crossing before. At this point, he vocally stumbled on himself and very loudly said, "Level crossing? What level crossing? What are you on about?" This conversation is taking place as we are still driving, and after a minute, I recognize where we are, and everything was as it's always been. He goes into the shop, and I stay in the car feeling frustrated and confused. While he was in the shop, I'm running over our conversation in my head, and I'm slightly uncomfortable that he didn't understand what I was asking, or how he didn't see the level crossing. He comes back. It's more relaxed, and I'm calmly insisting that we must have come a different way, even though that made no sense to me as the last leg of the route was the same, and there's no other way to get to that particular road. To prove a point, which was irrelevant, He drove back the only other route. This confirmed to me that he had no idea what I was even asking, and was clearly baffled by what I was suggesting. We got back to his place and eventually we let it go, and he laughed it off, saying that I imagined it, or was thinking of a different place and had merged two memories together. So, over the following weeks, I scoured every single map that I could find. Normal road maps, ordnance survey maps, Google Satellite, and Google Street View. I even went on different train enthusiast websites where there's a list of every level crossing and what type of crossing they are, etc. There was no trace of it. We drove that route 2 days later, and it was the same as it ever was. I had never seen that level crossing before, and I haven't seen it since. The area is known for the Bluebell Railway, so I even looked into old, disused railway lines, etc. I searched out everything you can think of solidly over a 2-week period, and found nothing. I let it go for a bit and would search a few times a week, and then a handful of times a month, etc. After about 4 months, I had solidly scoured a 30-mile radius of that entire route. I did this to try and find even an illogical or irrational answer. For instance, that perhaps there was a diversion and we didn't notice it, but that's impossible as there's nothing like that even on the longest diversions. It simply did not exist. We'd been driving that route for around 3 years when this happened, and continued doing it for another 2.5 years. I knew this area incredibly well through driving around and hiking, etc. I will never understand what happened that night. I would love to know if anyone has experienced anything similar, or any suggestions as to what may have happened. Okay, first off, I'm broke. I get paid tomorrow, but I had $70 in cash that I have been using over the week. I watch children from my church on Sundays during small groups, and they pay me $30 every week. And my great-grandmother sent me $40 in the mail on Monday. Okay, awesome. I put the 20 in the 10 for my church and the 2 20s in my wallet and go to the store. That's $70. I went to Shoe Show and got a pair of shoes for $21 and some change. Then I headed over to Goodwill to get a sweater and a scarf for $7. This added up to $28 that I spent. Okay, cool. I have $41 and some change in my wallet, and yes, I checked. So, this morning I went to go get gas in my car. I chose the pay inside option, got $29.80 in gas because I had $41 in my wallet, and I headed to the window to pay. I got my wallet out, and there's only $1.20 where there had previously been $2. I looked in every single part of the wallet, every pouch, zipper, hole. There was nothing there. Not a huge deal at the moment. I paid for the rest using my card. Then I pulled off on the side of the road and checked everywhere in my car. There was no 20 to be found. I thought, okay, whatever. That really sucks because that 20 was my life until payday, but maybe I'll find it in a shopping bag somewhere. So, I got back to my mom's school, decided to check my wallet one more time, and behold, it's sitting right in the cash holder in my wallet. I know for a fact that I checked there. It was sitting right next to my $1 bill. When I checked through my wallet, I took all the cash out. The measly $1 that was still in there, all the change, and a receipt. And it was not in there. I'm kind of shook, but I'm glad that I got my money back. About 2.5 years ago, when my baby was only a few months old, I had something weird happen to me. Me and my husband have a really good baby. He always slept through the night and also napped during the day. One day, while the baby was napping, I was reading on my phone and my husband went out to get groceries. He went on foot to a market nearby, like a 6 or 7 minute walk, and it was really quiet in the apartment. At some point, I heard a click and footsteps coming down the hallway to the bedroom where I was with our baby. I looked at the door expecting to see my husband, but it was like he stopped at the door. I waited and then texted him asking if he'd come home. He replied no, that he was still at the store and had a few more things he had to get. That moment, I freaked out because I clearly heard footsteps and the door unlocking, and I panicked. No one else had keys to this apartment. We had just moved and relatives were living far away and would let us know if they visited. I told him about what I heard, and then I went outside to the bedroom to check the hallway. Nothing there. Went to check the front door. It was still locked. I relaxed a little and texted him back saying everything was fine, and maybe I imagined it, whatever, and then got back into the bed next to my son. A minute after I got back into bed, I heard the front door click and footsteps down the hallway, and I froze and I panicked, and I was about to scream because it had happened again and it sounded exactly the same. Only this time, it really was my husband. He came through the bedroom door panting and gasping for air, asking me what's happened. Apparently, after I told him that I had heard someone in the house, he left everything and ran back home. He didn't even get to see the "everything's fine" text because he rushed to see what was going on. We still don't know what happened that day, but it was freaky. So that, my friends, was this week's Glitch in the Matrix collection. A collection of strange, bizarre, awkward, odd, those kinds of stories. The weird that teeter into paranormal but aren't quite paranormal, but they really do make you think about how messed up and strange existence can be. Sometimes I read these stories and I just kind of stop and think, like, have I ever experienced anything similar? And to be honest, I really haven't, but that's just me. Obviously, a number of people, an uncountable number of people, have experienced strange things like these, as I've told these stories for over 2 years now, and yeah. Weird stuff. Always weird stuff going on in our existence. Some of it's explainable, some of it not. Some of it creepy, some of it just downright odd. And yeah, I'm here for all of it, so hopefully you enjoyed this collection of stories. If you did, please be so kind as to hit that thumbs up button, as it tremendously helps this channel. And if you are new to these parts of town, partner, you can hit that subscribe button down there. Subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed what you heard and want more content like this, I do 3 videos a week, typically Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Monday is always glitch day, so there's that. You can also do a super thanks, which is a quick tip to the channel, just a little donation to help push the channel a little further, help me support it, or help support it, I suppose, what I'm trying to say. You can also go to Patreon or channel memberships, which is the join button, which gets you early access to content so long as I'm early. I haven't been for a bit, and I apologize for that to everybody. Life is life, and I'm sure you all understand that tremendously. I haven't been late, I just haven't been early, so I'm perpetually on time, I suppose. The other thing you can do to further support the channel is leave me a comment with what we call the word of the week. In the word of the week, I give you a word, you leave a comment with the word, I put your comment on the screen, such as right now and several moments prior to now. There is a collection of comments who used last week's word of the week, which was pass. And just to clarify, if you guys are ever wondering why I say right now and several moments before now, it's to keep it on the screen longer, if you're ever wondering that. Because if I say now and several moments prior to now, that adds on like 2 or 3 seconds, and it gets to keep it up on the screen longer, and that way everyone gets their display on the screen for a longer period of time. The silly things I come up with to extend these outros, huh? Anyways, thank you to everyone who submitted their comment to me. Really appreciate it. Let's move on to this week's word of the week. I've rambled long enough. This week, the word of the week is one that's pretty quaint. It is literally quaint. Quaint, and it means a pleasingly or strikingly old-fashioned or unfamiliar, marked by skillful design, or unusual or different in character or appearance. One could say I am a quaint little bird as I do these stories for all of you, which is a bit unusual or different in character. Yeah. Huge thank you to everyone for listening to this point, and I hope you're all having a beautiful day. Hope I see you on the next one, but until then, remember you are loved, you are important, you are valid. Never let anyone tell you otherwise or forget it. And until I see you again, much love and sleep well.